school improvement plan. So again, that looks a little bit different for each building, and I'm not going to get too much in the weeds. This is very much a high level view of our goals. Again, each building sets specific achievement goals based off of the different assessments afforded them at each building. So in the elementary, that can look like iRead. In middle school, iLearn. The high school, SAT. Those are the types of academic measures that we can use and point to say, are we having success in our different areas? Just again, as a quick high level here, two that I wanted to take a look at that kind of pertain to both levels. And again, we've only been in this plan for a semester, so we don't have iLearn data or iRead data yet. We don't have SAT data yet. We'll eventually talk about this, but the high school has reading comprehension assessment plans they have in place. They need to develop those first, establish a baseline, and then we can start measuring growth from that. So this is still very much in its infancy. Again, just one semester in. This data you're looking at here, again, I shared this, I believe, in my assistant superintendent notes to the board this month. If you want to have more of a breakdown of this, I can share you. But again, the iReady assessment is administered 3 times each year, fall, winter, and spring. And our professional learning communities, our teacher teams, utilize these results in part to make decisions related to student interventions, right? So whenever we notice that students are struggling, we can look back at their iReady results in grades K through 8 to kind of determine, okay, what specific area are they weak at? What are their strengths? And then we can kind of tailor interventions based off of that data. Again, I've provided a brief breakdown of that in my notes. Our primary means of measuring student achievement, like I mentioned before, for K, well, really 3 through 8, will be through iLearn. But again, we use iReady as a monitoring tool throughout the year as we progress. There's a greater breakdown, like I said. If you're very much interested in listening to me talk more about iReady data, I'd love to. But in the meantime, what you're looking at here, that blue line in each of those, so top left is math for elementary, so grades K through 5. Bottom left is math for middle school, grades 6 through 8. Top right is elementary reading. Bottom right is middle school reading. And one thing that you'll notice in each of those is that our first year, that blue line was our lowest starting point, and then we had steady growth in each of those years. Our red line is that second year of implementation with that. We saw improved starting points, and we saw some steady growth on those as well. And then green is kind of hard to tell because they're starting to overlap a little bit, but green started, which is this current year, started around the same, if not a little bit higher than where we were this time last year. And again, we're still seeing growth in each of those 3 areas. Again, I can get into more of a breakdown with iReady later if you want. That's not really the purpose of this meeting, but just kind of want to share that we use this data to make educational decisions as far as what intervention looks like. And then ultimately, year over year, kind of helping us tweak and refine our instruction. When you look at do something similar with the high school, always a challenge trying to find a good assessment to measure achievement for students. I hesitate to say the best, the most adequate, I'll say, for doing that for as many grade levels as possible. At the same time, we do PSAT. SAT is only administered to our juniors, and it's a requirement for all juniors in the state of Indiana to take the SAT, with a few exceptions. But for us, a part of our formative assessments that we give is the PSAT. We give it to freshmen, to sophomores, and to juniors. And so, again, I'm cherry picking here. I'm just giving this as an example. This was our 11th grade, so our juniors' PSAT results over the past 4 years. So that first set of graphs, the black, gray, blue, and green on the left, is your percent of students meeting both the English reading, writing, and math proficiency levels. Again, started off at 22%, bumped up to 30%. It's kind of been trailing off the last couple years since. Again, just a high level view, just a quick touch on, just to show you that our us teachers have access to this data. They can use this data to help make some decisions more from a big picture perspective of what is working in our classrooms versus what's not, as far as what are we seeing results on. There is a correlation between performance on the PSAT and the SAT, as you would hope. I talked about that last year when we looked at our SAT data. We'll take a look at it again this year when we testing for SAT is in March. But again, primary means of measuring student achievement in grades 9 through 12 will actually be through a locally developed reading comprehension assessment. As part of the high school's plan, they're working on the PLCs to establish methods for assessing reading comprehension within each subject. Once those assessments have been established, like I mentioned before, we'll collect baseline data and ultimately use that to compare it year over year and determine what strategies are working in classrooms versus what's not. In the meantime, PSAT again is a single data point that we can look at and see, okay, how do our instructional strategies impact student learning relative to the PSAT there. Again, what I find more interesting than anything else is that this is probably one of the first times our high school has kind of been in agreement as an entire school of we want to improve reading comprehension, all right? And the way we want to do that is what does reading comprehension look like in English? What does it look like in math? What does it look like in science, in ag, in wellness, all those different areas. Reading comprehension is going to be a little bit different in each of those subjects, but students can have reading comprehension. So how do we measure that in each of those areas? And then how do we make sure that we're incorporating more reading, more writing in each of our subjects, including math? And again, I'm pretty sure our math department is taking that to heart too. So their goal this year is to simply establish those assessments. What do those reading assessments need to look like? And starting next year, they're going to start developing that baseline data for us. So that is student achievement. Again, that one takes a little bit longer to explain. The second part of our student achievement goal is that TCSC will have at least 80% of attending students attending school at least 94% of the time they're enrolled. This is one of those funny percentages things. So 94% is kind of that baseline of what you consider quote unquote good attendance. I think I've mentioned this before. It's kind of the arbitrary line the state's kind of drawn the sand for us. And so what our goal is to get 80% of our students, so 4 out of every 5 kids will be in school at least 94% of the year. With that, we got pretty good data from last year. Again, we really started focusing on attendance data last year, and we've continued that this year. So comparing to this time last year, our elementary attendance has seen an actual slight increase, which is in due no small part to the relationships that we build with our families, the communication we get from our administration and our teachers to families trying to encourage attendance. Again, middle school and high school did see a drop, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. Again, each of these numbers tells a story. And like I said before, I've got a much bigger breakdown of all this. I actually review it every 2 weeks with our administrative team. They're probably sick of me talking about it, but we look at those trends, we look at those patterns, and we're trying to identify, what time of year do we tend to have struggling with attendance? How do we make sure that we do things to specifically target and support families? At the same time, improvement on attendance is rarely going to be linear. I mean, it's not always going to be just, all right, let's take a next step forward. Ultimately, our goal is 80%. Whether we reach that or not, to me, obviously we want to reach that, but as long as we're striving for that, I think that we're going to continue to see progress long term. It's a problem not only across the state, but also across the country, attendance-wise. And nobody's got a magic wand. Nobody can solve this really easily. And so when we look at this data, we see, okay, elementary went up. Well, middle school and high school from this time last year have gone down. Well, what's the story behind that? And like I said, if students are sick, those are considered excused absences, and that's something that, out of our control, right? I mean, we don't want kids coming to school if they are sick, they got a fever, if they're throwing up, that's something to, hey, stay home, take care of yourself. So one of the ways that we kind of measure that is excused versus unexcused absences, right? If your family's calling you in saying, hey, they're sick, they've got a fever, they can't come in for whatever reason, that's an excused absence. That's what you have indicated here in the blue bar. The red bar in each of these graphs is the unexcused absences. And again, it's a little bit hard to read simply because I've got, I think, 15 schools in the school districts in the area measured on here. Tipton falls 5th as far as overall absences go, absence rate. Again, top third is not too bad. And then when you look closer at those unexcused absences, the ones that we're trying to get a hold of and like, what's going on? Why is your kid not here? We're actually 4th lowest in the area. So again, while I'm not satisfied with their attendance data, and I don't think anybody is, it's not, for lack of better terminology, it's not bad, but we know it can be better, and we want to be better. And so we continue to look for ways. We continue to look for strategies. We share strategies with as an admin team every week, trying to figure out what's happening here. Why is this data so high? Again, I've even got it broken down. I think I've shared with you last time. We have it broken down by day of the week. Which one do we tend to see more absences? So we have that data available, and we're monitoring it closely year over year. So all of that was our student achievement data. Moving on to communication, our communication belief statement. We believe in family, community collaboration, and we believe that interpersonal social relationships are necessary to ensure student success both within and outside our building. So the first goal related to that, by the end of 26, 27, all TCSC families will receive regular communication from both administration and their child's teachers. Again, that is something that is consistent across all three buildings. Just kind of giving you a glimpse here. Elementary communicate regularly through weekly newsletters, both admin and teachers. Our admin also make it a point to contact at least 2 families each week to celebrate students. Just a positive phone call home from principal. And that's something that, again, I've been told has been very well received from some of our families. In addition to the principal's weekly newsletters and AD newsletter, the middle school teachers use their team collaboration time weekly to communicate with families of at-risk students, whether that's academically at risk, behaviorally at risk, attendance at risk, building a sense of teamwork and collaboration between the school and home, right? So again, the whole purpose of this communication is that school and home are not on opposite sides of the table. We're on the same side of the table. We're all here to help students. And that's exactly what this is geared towards. 100% of those families of at-risk students get communicated with by those middle school teachers. So again, that's moving us towards that more regular communication overall. And again, at the high school, there's more frequent communication at home than there has been in the past. And we have evidence of that through our log entries. Every time that a teacher contacts home, they log it in the log entries on PowerSchool. And our administration have made it very clear to me that they have never seen this many log entries for communication at home. Again, currently, a greater emphasis is being put on email communication. That is sometimes not always met or received well. Families don't always, hover over their email to see what's being sent home. So we've been in conversations about, utilizing our Bright Arrow tool to, use the texting feature to text families, hey, just want to let you know, heads up, here's what's going on with your child, whether that's positive or whether it's something that may be more concerning. It's a way to meet families where they're at, right? Again, if they're not very much into the email, pretty much everybody's got their cell phone on them. That's an opportunity for us, similar to how we alert people to weather delays, as we noticed this morning. Again, these are solid starts. And remember, our goal is for these to be improved by the end of the 26-27 school year. So good starts, but we certainly are expecting to see more and more from that. Our second goal relates to TCSC will provide opportunities for community representation on advisory committees. So from a district-wide perspective, we had our special ed multilingual learner audit. That was in last fall. We have a broad-based high ability committee that meets quarterly. Our AI committee, which is working on trying to develop some guidelines for AI use in schools, we meet roughly monthly. And then our non-consumable curriculum material advisory committees, those meet semi-annually in the fall and in the spring. From an elementary perspective, TESO is a fantastic opportunity to collaborate and work together. We also this year had a reading curriculum advisory committee for the reading curriculum that we are proposing today. The middle school has a sunshine committee where they work with parents to help provide some positive stuff going on for our staff, especially during these winter months. And then there's also a family advisory committee in the works that is expected to kind of kick off next year in 25-26 is their plan there. And for the high school, they've actually started their parent advisory committee. They meet every other month. And I think they're in their third or fourth meeting coming up here soon. So again, each building kind of baby steps into that. How do we get parents and families more involved in some of the work here at school? Our last communication goal is TCSC will effectively and frequently highlight students and staff for in-school and extracurricular achievements. So there's something that you probably notice on social media, particularly Facebook, a lot more posts getting put out from elementary or middle school or high school. We really try to encourage our administration to post things, not just, extracurricular athletic, but also what's happening in the classroom, what's happening day to day. And that's something that I think if you just are active on social media at all, you've probably noticed an uptick on that. I haven't been able to pull all of the statistics relative this year to last year, but that's something I'm hoping to do by the end of the semester here to kind of share a year-end summary of our social media. Last belief statement is on professional learning. We believe professional development is essential for all staff, and our students deserve instruction that is founded in evidence-based best practices from well-trained staff. So our first goal related to that is that all staff will receive formal feedback on the adherence to the Tipton Way real quickly, Tipton Way focuses on, I believe it's 7 characteristics: professionalism, grace, students first, present, giving our best, and a growth mindset. I guess that makes it 6. Again, those are the 6 different areas that we really want to emphasize and model as a district. All right? Whether it's our teachers, our paraprofessionals, our administrators, everyone involved in the district, we want to make sure that we're giving our best and showing the Tipton way. So currently, each building's in a different place relative to this. Again, this is a relatively new thing we've started this year. So our elementary is applying the Tipton way in feedback as a positive element for all of our certified staff in their post-observation meetings. And our middle school is celebrating the Tipton way by recognizing staff who demonstrate elements of the Tipton way each month there as well. So again, trying to step this up as a way of celebrating and recognizing, hey, how are our staff modeling? What does the Tipton way show here in Tipton Community Schools? The last goal for professional learning then, by the end of the 26-27 school year, all TCSC professional staff are going to earn 50 hours of professional development each year. We're currently tracking that. And again, we'll be able to give a summary at the end of the year as far as where staff are with their 50 hours of professional development. And that is the conclusion of our strategic plan. Again, very quick. When I say quick, that was 20 minutes. 20 minutes, high-level view of where we're at with our plan. Do you guys have any questions about any element of that? I appreciate you listening to that. Yeah.
Only showed 2 years, but wasn't last year better than the year before as far as we know?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
I mean, it makes this year not look great, but we only went back 2 years, so.
Correct. Yeah, and like I said, it's nonlinear, and again, I can pull up more and more data. As far as closely monitor data, like I've got pages and pages of it. Last year's one where we're really focused on. Before that, I'm pulling stuff from the DOE, things that are recorded through our SIS. It's a little bit it doesn't give me as much as I want, right? Like I can sink my teeth in the data when it's live, and by me recording all of it, I can go back to that. So yeah,
we're trending better.
Yes, for sure. And like I mentioned in this particular slide, we are by no means anywhere near, oh, this is a major concern. We're not satisfied by any means. I mean, missing over almost 5% of our students each day is, we don't want to have that, but understand things happen, right? Appointments get scheduled, emergencies happen, you have a vacation that gets planned with your family. Those things happen. We understand that. And so that's why it's hard to say, well, we want to get 100% attendance, because that's just unrealistic. That's not going to happen. So what we do is we're just trying to squeeze the orange as much as we can. How can we get as much juice out of that as we can? And like I said, we've seen an uptick in elementary, which for me is probably one of the more difficult ones, because those are the kids who tend to be a little bit more vulnerable as far as like they get sick a little bit more often. If you've been in elementary, you know what that's like. So again, that's something where we're trying to see what are the different ways. And for me, a good measure is that unexcused absences. Those are when we don't know where the kids are at. For that to be as low as this, especially relative to some of these other districts, I think is a huge mark of how well we're communicating with families.
Yeah.
I mean, trust me, I would love to talk more about
it. You still don't know about Tuesdays.
I don't know. It's shifting a little bit. I'll have to give you the most up-to-date data because it's fascinating to me.
Costumes.
We need more costumes.
Halloween every week.
That's right. On Tuesday.
Yeah, on Tuesday.
That is it for that. I believe I have a second presentation, so bear with me. You'll have to listen to me a little bit longer. So recently, we had a website update not that long ago. If you recall, I think it was less than 2 years ago at this point. And we moved to this, and this was fantastic. We were very excited about this. We made a whole shift to it. This was through, I believe, Blackboard. And forgive me, I am less versed with the technology aspect of this than others. But essentially, Blackboard owned this website, and they were helping us get this running up and going. We felt really confident with it. We actually got it nearly exactly how we want it. And then Blackboard got bought out by, I believe, Finalsite. So Finalsite now has the website, and they are getting rid of this one. So all the work we put into this is kind of, sorry, gone. Yes and no to that. They're switching it, and they're switching it to their own little personal site. And I'm going to show you here in just a second. Just as a refresher, if you're not super familiar, this is what our website looked like. You had your district calendar on the left. You had your video playing in the middle here. You've got your tabs to take you wherever you need to go. So again, it was a very functional, very practical, very efficient, effective website. So nothing to complain about that. It's just it's going away, and eventually it'll be cut off here in 2025. So we are currently in the process of shifting over. The goal was to get it done by the start of this school semester. Unfortunately, a lot of things have happened in the last couple months, and so have not been able to get everything done. They say they finished transferring all of the data from the old website to the new one in early December. I have a hard time believing that because even just today, there was more new things that nobody had added on our end. So clearly things are still transferring over. So I'm kind of glad that we haven't just switched over yet because there's still things that are getting updated. This is what the new website will look like. So again, similar video. We are actually going to be updating the video that's on our to-do list here in the next few weeks. Is this, as you can tell, is the old Inferno. All the updates to the district. If you scroll down a little bit, again, we got our vision mission here. Some of our tabs, these are similar tabs that we had in the last one, just a little bit aesthetically different. Again, you can see here, not all of this is updated. We still have, updates on Tulsi Production Greenhouse. Is not quite finished yet. Well, it is. It's been finished for a while. So we're working on collecting that content to make sure we can give a new, fresh update on our website. So again, it's not 100% ready yet. A lot of things, and I just had a meeting this morning to go over a punch list of things that we need to knock out here in the next couple weeks before we take a look at rolling over. But again, this is roughly what it looked like. I'm not 100% sure exactly how you want to kind of browse it. Similar, it's got these buttons here to take you all the different areas of our website. One of the things I really like is that registration transfer is right here on the front, right in your face on the actual video. Same with board members. If you want to take a look at our board, it's access here. And then careers is another button. So again, some of the hot button things that people want to go to when they go to your website, that's where it's at right there. Again, I would love to sit here for another half hour digging through all this. I don't know how exciting that would be for everybody, but we'll let you know when this goes live, and we'll probably give you guys another sneak preview of that before we do hit that button. So is there anything you do want to see on this? Like I said, it's not 100% finished, but like calendars up to date, all the legal required things that go on a school website are already transferred over. It's really more the aesthetics and some of the content, pictures and such that'll need to be updated.
I guess the question that I would have is when another company purchases the website, I mean, do they assume all of the costs to do all of the transfers? I mean, at what cost?
Yes, they do. They did that courtesy for us. Like I said, the quality of that I think it's happening, right? Like I said, just today, a couple of these buttons up here were getting added that weren't there before. So I'm hesitant to just switch that button and go live because I'm kind of waiting for other shoes to drop. But in the meantime, I'm working alongside our team to make sure that we are getting this up and running as soon as possible. Again, for me, one of the challenges is just getting the content update, right? Like I can take pictures all live long day. As I discovered last week, I'm awful at taking video. Just not a high quality video guy, and that's not my forte. So need to work with some more experts on that to make sure we get something really good. Because the first thing you see when you get on the website is the video. So we'll make sure it's a high quality one for us.
Any other questions? Okay. Yeah, thank you for all your work on both of those.
Absolutely.
Okay, at this time, does anyone have any questions or comments about the board agenda this evening? Dr. Glaze, comments on advisory committees?
Since we have some new board members and such, I gave you January off because we have some new board training and some other things going on. We will get those zooming out here in February. So you'll probably get an email from me in the next week saying, hey, what you interested in? And we'll kind of list all the different committees that are a part of this. But it's a big jump into all of this. So trying to ease in a little bit. So you'll see all of those hopefully in the next board meeting in February. But definitely get some input on what you might have an interest in. Okay.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, next, comments from the community. We just had one, Mrs. Satan.
First, I want to say welcome, congratulations, ladies. For returning. And I want to thank Rob too, because I would not have known that tonight's meeting was transferred to Monday unless, he had let me know. And then last week, when I looked on the website, the date hadn't been changed yet to reflect the change, so I would have been here tomorrow, like the live stream people, if you didn't get on it and have it changed on the website, so thank you very much for doing that.
I just notified Dr. Glaze,
I
so
know.
I didn't do
I
anything. Okay.
But I mean, just being in contact as
Sure.
my rep for the board, I appreciated that.
Sure.
So, which I just kind of wanted to highlight because, you know, one of our strategic goals is communication and we're always looking to ways to improve it. And, you know, it's a bit frustrating sometimes when you're going on there and you're looking up agendas and things like that. And then, you know, dates aren't added for like interviews for new board members and things. And you're just kind of like left searching for that. And I'm not saying it happens all the time, but, you know, when you see a date there and then something's changed, it's like, okay, is it changed? Is it not changed? It just is added frustration, I guess, that doesn't need to be there. And if we're really trying to get parents and everybody involved, I worry about I just worry about a false perception that, you know, you don't want parents involved if it's this hard to find that kind of stuff. So also, I was hoping with the new year and the new board, regarding when you post agendas and things like that, and then when we go to the normal, board session portion of the monthly board meeting, if you're going to be updating policies and things, if we can add that onto the agenda, if it's gonna be presented to the public, that way when we come and you ask for public input and things regarding any proposed change that you're gonna vote on, at least we would have a way of knowing what's gonna be said or to offer our input, because otherwise we don't know unless you come here and you sit and listen or watch in a live stream and you have no idea what the policy is to even give input on. So I'm just, something to someone who comes all the time to board meetings and such, I just think that would be helpful very, very much, so that we can sign up and comment and know what it is we're going to be commenting on. So, that's what I had to say. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we will adjourn our work session and begin our regular scheduled meeting at 6:30.
Hello? Good for you.
Good evening and welcome to the Tipton Community School Corporation Regular School Board meeting. Just so thankful you could join us. I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and reciting our vision statement, and Tammy is going to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Growing empowered, future-ready students who are prepared for a lifetime of opportunity and success.
All right, at this time, I would like to invite Julia to come forward. We're going to take our oath of office.
Board members, I'm Julia Kozicki here on behalf of Church Hill and Antrim. We are proud to serve as your board council, and it's my pleasure this evening to swear in our newly elected members. So I'd ask Beth, Jennifer, Andrea, and Kimberly to come forward so we can swear you in. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I solemnly swear or affirm. I solemnly swear or affirm. That I will support the Constitution. That I will support the Constitution. Of the United States of America. Of the United States of America. The Constitution of the State of Indiana. The Constitution of the State of Indiana. And the laws of the United States. And the laws of the United States. And the State of Indiana. And the State of Indiana. I will faithfully execute. I will faithfully execute the duties of my office. The duties of my office. As a member of this governing body. As a member of this governing body. So help me God. So help me God. Congratulations, you're each official. And I'll take one more moment. As your attorney, until the board has elected its new officers, you have no officers. So I will go ahead and ask if there is a motion to nominate someone for president, or if you have a slate of officers that you'd like to make a motion for.
I would like to nominate Rob Cochran to be president of the school board.
Rob Cochran?
Second.
There's a second for Rob. Are there further nominations? Nominations are closed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Rob. I will turn over the floor to you then, my friend. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Have a lovely
Thank you.
Thanks, Julia.
And now we're going to the musical chairs.
Thought through this before I brought the iPad. All right, at this time, the chair will accept nominations for board vice president. Do we have a motion for vice president?
I would like to nominate Jennifer Hummerkaus.
A second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions or comment? All those in favor of Jennifer Hummerkaus as vice president signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And at this time, we'll now accept nominations for secretary. Anyone with a nomination for secretary?
Yeah, I would like to nominate Andrea Campbell as secretary for the board.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. So we have a nomination and a second for Andrea Campbell for secretary. Any questions, comments? All those in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So it is recommended that Brooke Cleaver again be appointed as the treasurer and Dawn Benefiel as the executive secretary of the board. Need a motion and a second to appoint Brooke and Dawn to those roles.
I move to approve Brooke Cleaver to be appointed as the treasurer and Dawn Benefiel as the executive secretary of the board.
Great. I have a motion and a second. Do I need a second?
Second.
Thank you. A motion and a second. Any questions? All right. All those in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. And then the establishment of a meeting time and date. So it's recommended that we maintain our current meeting date and time of the second Tuesday of each month at 6:30 PM. You know, we need a motion and a second to make that establishment.
I will move that we maintain our current meeting date and time of the second Tuesday of each month at 6:30.
Second.
Second, motion and a second. Any questions or open comment on our date and time? All right. If you would vote in favor of this, just signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. All right, now I would make a motion here to amend the agenda for this evening. We have some Blue Future Awards, and instead of making them sit through the Board of Finance meeting, I want to pull those Blue Future Awards up to now. So I would need a motion and a second to modify the agenda.
I move we modify the agenda per your request.
Second.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, so we will go to the Blue Future Awards. Dr. Glaze? Yes. Here's your show.
I'm actually going to turn this over to Kim Fegg, who did the nominations for our Blue Future Awards for this month. And so if you just want to announce their names, come up and we'll take their picture. And
Okay.
I want you to be able to say everything that
Okay.
you wrote down. 'Cause it was
I
all
wrote
so
it
well
so I
done.
didn't forget
No,
anything.
no, great. That'd be great.
Okay, I am thrilled to present my first Blue Future Award to the Tipton Wrestling Team, coaches Jeremiah Nunemaker and Adam Moats. Standout wrestlers Branson Atkins, William Wolford, and Emerson Atkins. This is my 4th year being actively involved with the wrestling program, and I can absolutely say with great confidence that this team exemplifies hard work, leadership, and perseverance, consistently representing our school with pride. Over the past 3 years, Coach Nunemaker and Coach Moats have poured their time, sweat, and dedication into building this program, and their efforts are shining brightly this season. Over winter break, the team competed at the annual Eastern Holiday Classic. This is a challenging 2-day meet with over 10 schools attending. The Blue Devils achieved the historic second-place finish for the 2nd year in a row. The last time the team placed this high was way back in 2008 when they tied for first. They also resecured the Tipton County Trophy by defeating Tri-Central. Additionally, the team earned the inaugural Bob Jarrett Award for achieving the most pins in the tournament, which was 49 over the 2 days. Leading the way for those pins were senior Branson Atkins and junior William Wolford. Both went undefeated, winning their weight classes. Branson earned 8 wins by pin and 1 by forfeit, while William secured 8 pins and also broke a school and tournament record with a 10-second pin. The previous record was 14 seconds for reference. William also remained undefeated by pin this past Saturday at our own annual tournament, winning his weight class once again. Sophomore Emerson Atkins continues to make THS history by winning her weight class at the first ever IHSAA sanctioned girls wrestling sectional. This advanced her to regionals where she took 2nd place and will compete in the state tournament on Friday. Emerson will be the first female wrestler to make it to state, and she is the perfect example of who I would want to pave this way for my daughter. Beyond their athletic accomplishments, these wrestlers are leaders in our school, actively participating in student council, National Honor Society, and other sports and activities. Their achievements, along with the tireless work of their coaches, are putting Tipton wrestling on the map, and I fully believe that this team and these wrestlers are truly deserving of this recognition. So, Adam, Jeremy, Branson, William, Emerson, and then whoever's representing, I think you guys brought a senior to represent the full team.
Next you get closer. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, thank you. I just want to say thank you guys. Just doing an outstanding job. I am impressed with everything you're doing. Keep up the great work, and we're looking forward to the next few weeks. It's awesome. Congratulations. That's right.
So, thank you for that. Appreciate it, Kimberly. If you did come for a swearing in or a Blue Future Award, and you don't want to sit through the Board of Finance and the rest of the agenda, this would be the time for you to auto start your car and head towards the exit. But thank you for coming out. The board's going to recess now from our regular meeting for the purpose of conducting a brief Board of Finance meeting. I need a motion for the recess.
I move to recess the board meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to recess for Board of Finance. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Are recessed.
Let's go ahead and get our Board of Finance agenda going up here. And this is the time that I that I take over a little bit of the meeting. This doesn't happen very often, a couple of times a year. But I will go through the Board of Finance here just to kind of let you know exactly how this process works. As far as the Board of Finance meeting, this has always gone on. The newer part of this is our do-hab part, which I'll explain a little bit more once we get down to it. So tonight's meeting is in two parts. This part is a meeting of the Board of Finance, and this will be required to hold. It's required to hold annually in January. We have three functions: to elect a president and a secretary, and then to name a depository for our corporation funds, and also to receive and review an investment report. So, first and foremost, we have an election of officers. The Board of Finance must elect a president and secretary. The president and secretary may be the same board members elected for president and secretary of the Board of Trustees. We will now open the floor for nominations for the president and secretary of the Board of Finance. Do we have any nominations?
I would like to nominate Rob Cochran as president.
You can do both.
And then I would nominate Andrea
Okay.
Campbell.
Okay.
You wanna do
Well, that's
myself?
kind of weird.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. So we have our president of the Board of Finance, Rob Cochran, and then the secretary, Andrea Campbell. And so moving on down, I'm going to kind of give this over to you now, Rob, kind of similar to what we did before. And you're
Okay.
welcome to cheat on this
Oh, I
if you'd
have to
like.
read off the big
Yep,
thing
yep,
here?
yep.
I said I can't read
Yep,
that.
yep. Okay, there
Oh,
you go.
isn't it?
Yep, there you go.
So First Farmers Bank and Trust is the depository for corporation funds. We currently have checking, e-funds, which is our school lunch, tech repair and replacement fees, and a sweep account or savings there. It's the recommendation that the board again approve First Farmers Bank and Trust as the depository for corporation funds. I would need a motion and a second to designate First Farmers.
I move to designate First Farmers Bank and Trust as for our depositories.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any questions? Okay, I take this time to say I'm going to recuse myself from the vote. I have a family member that works there at the bank, and out of an abundance of caution, I will remove myself from the vote. But if you're in favor of keeping First Farmers, just please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. The investment report is made available to board members in the monthly financial report. This month's report for December also is in the report for the end of the year. The investment earnings for 2024 were $573,620.20. Tipton Community School Corporation maintains a repurchase agreement account or a charge card through BMO Harris. No voter in it, okay.
I have a question about that. When we first started, I remember there was something we did to improve our return on the money that we had. Is that this is a result of that,
It
right?
is
This
very
was
much a result.
tremendous. I just want to say, I didn't think it was a Blue Future Award, but it is. I mean, seriously, we weren't earning any money on the money we were holding, and now $500,000. So kudos to Brooke and Dr. Glaze for developing that plan.
We give that, all that credit to Brooke. And Brooke, do you want to talk a little bit about what we did with that? Because honestly, it was genius.
Well, yeah, last year they agreed, we were going to work on Trust Indiana, which is where you can leave your public funds.
Right.
An account held by the state, it's probably the state controller's office. And you can move money basically. If I say I need it tomorrow, you can move it back. So it's pretty smooth. So we were going to do that. The First Farmers agreed to work with us and agreed to match the rate plus 3 basis points. And then for this year, they also agreed to match the rate plus 1 basis point. So give it market a little bit.
Competition is a great thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
Is there a minimum balance requirement?
Well over probably $20. Lower balance.
Well, anyway, it's tremendous. It's been very beneficial.
Absolutely. And all credit goes to Brooke. That was
Eric,
great.
that's your February Blue Future nominee.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just write it down.
I love it. I love it.
Very good. So attached are detailed projections of revenue and expenditures for 2025 as set out in our 1782 notice from the DLGF. Our final 1782 notice is attached. It's in your board packet. The approved rates for 2025 for debt service are 0.3999. For the operations fund, it is 0.4541. And our total levy is 0.8540. The estimated revenue for the education fund is $11,700,500. For our debt service, $3,772,302. And for our operation fund, $4,428,576. Over to the back. So this was not, so the,
I'm sorry.
that's okay.
We added that later.
So our 2024 expenditure and percentage of appropriations spent in our education fund, we had $11,262,211.83. We've appropriated 98.6% of that. In our debt service, we had $3,181,225.25. We have appropriated 99.8% of that. And in our operations fund, we had $4,690,441.15. We've appropriated 85.8% of that. And as a point of reference, our levy history, we're going to, last year was 0.9093 and the year prior 8806. So just for reference, and then in there is the 1782 notice, which is in there as well.
So the total levy will be less. It's going down, right? 85,
Yes,
40.
the
That's
total
good.
levy is moving down.
So now the debt service, they've told us to stay below 40 cents.
Correct.
Is there a cap for the total? Or that, the operation number is set by them anyway, right? So,
There really isn't, but we would have to go through a petition or remonstrance if we went over 40 cents.
right. But the other number that we don't have any control over anyway,
We have
right?
no control
So if we
over
say
it.
over
Yeah.
40, then we're at the, okay,
Yep.
just making sure I understand how we
Ab-
get.
You're absolutely correct.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely correct. And now I get to grab this from Rob, and we're going to go through the lovely written report of financial condition. And once again, this is one of these, gotta find the right one here. There we go. It's one of the reports that's required for us to do by the state of Indiana. And basically what happened in 2018, the legislature passed a law establishing the Distress Unit Appeal Board. And part of what happened with that is, I mean, we've all heard, and I always hate to say this, but, you know, Muncie and the eventual takeover by the state. Also, you know, Gary was in that as well. So again, what they have established is a safety net so that they're not going to be in the business of running schools anymore. They don't want to do it, and we don't want them to do it. So basically, what we do is we provide you with all of the financial information based on 6 categories that do have monitors. And it was a couple, maybe 2 or 3 years ago where DUAB did contact us with some questions. So they do monitor this. And so we were able to have an informal meeting with them. They understood what we were trying to do, and they were like, thumbs up, you're in good shape. And ever since then, they don't call, they don't write, and we want to keep it that way. So basically what it does is we take a look at these 6 different categories, which would be your average daily membership, also looking at fund balances, annual deficits and surpluses, fund balances as a percent of expenditures, what the revenue types are, whether they're coming from local property tax or coming from the DOE. And then the last part of that is the operating referendum, which we do not have. All of this information is pulled from our Form 9 that we send to the state every year on June 30th, just kind of giving them an idea of how the year's gone and how we're doing as far as our finances. So we pay close attention to that Form 9. We always want to make sure that when we submit our Form 9 that all of our balances are in the positive and everything's looking good. Although you will see a couple of places where that didn't happen. And basically that comes from federal grants where we have to spend the money out and get reimbursed from the state. So those reimbursements happen on the 15th of the month. And if we expended our funds at the end of June, we would not get a reimbursement until the 15th of July. So it kind of makes it look like it's a little bit of negative, but I'll give you an idea of that when we have that come up. That is one thing, particularly when we had big money coming from the federal stimulus into our accounts, that looked pretty significant in a couple of years. So essentially what we're looking at is our daily membership. So our daily membership is, as we're looking at, and again, this is always a year behind, okay? So when we're looking at the year behind, we had 1,388 students, and 22 of those were virtual. That was a drop of around 20 students between what we had here in 2022, 2023, and 2022, 2024. You'll notice the orange here, that denotes the number of students that we have that are full-time virtual. There are students that are attending our Tipton Virtual Academy. That is a number that I think we will continue to see an increase. We have a lot of students who really want to focus in on the virtual path. We do meet with them regularly. We do monitor them very closely, which we feel very good about, considering if they would go to a K-12 or something like that is a private digital platform, they may not be getting the hometown attention paid to them that we give them. So again, that just kind of denotes that. So the blue line here is the fall ADM, and the green line is the spring ADM. And as you can see, we remain fairly consistent between spring and fall. There's not a whole lot of a difference, and that's really just been a trend for us. That's been a trend, as you can see, for a long time. Once we have the kids here, they don't tend to leave us. So that's a good thing. So when we're looking at average daily membership and looking specifically at demographics, The three that we are looking at specifically here are the free and reduced lunch rate, as well as our special education rate, and then our English language learners. Now, once again, this is a year in the rears. When we take a look at this next year, we will see this number dramatically increasing because we have had a significant number of increased EL learners in our school. So you will see that number. These numbers have been relatively consistent. Tipton has kind of stayed around that 40% free and reduced lunch rate here for the last several years. So that remains fairly consistent. Our special education rate will go up and down, usually by small 1 or 2% from year to year. We do have a little bit of an uptick. I think we're up like 5 students from the December 1 from the year before to the December 1 this year. So again, there's not big jumps and changes within those criteria. So as we're moving to any questions about enrollment, ADM. Start with that. Okay. All right. Fund balances. This is a super hard one to understand, and I do apologize. One thing that is a great feature of this website, and it's called, essentially there's a link to it in your packet, but it's just the DUAB website, and there's a link. If you put in DUAB, it'll send you there, and then you'll have to scroll down to Tipton Community School Corporation. But what's really super nice about that is it is interactive, so you can play with it and take, this group out, add this group in, lots of interesting things that you can derive from that. I'm just giving you the generic view of it, okay? So as we're looking at it, you obviously see these big increases here in the blue. Essentially, this is coming from our projects where we've collected a lot of money in our bond sales. You'll notice that this was kind of the same thing happening back in 2017 and 16, and it kind of moves down, and then there's nothing here. So again, basically that's coming from our bond sales. As we're looking at our rainy day fund, so starting in 2019, our rainy day fund was up near $4 million. We're falling back to around $3 million. So we have had to use some rainy day funds, especially in the 2021, 22 time period, to really offset expenses that were happening in our operations fund. We were spending about 108% in education fund because we did have some overstaffing. We have worked really hard to get us to the right size, so that is no longer an impact. So that has been a very positive outlook, or a very positive outcome rather, of what we've been trying to do over the last few years. So basically, you will notice these deficits, and again, these are the deficits at the time of June 30th. So you'll see that these are federal stimulus funds that are below the line, which means that they ended up in a deficit. That is something that we don't get in trouble if that happens. That's just the way the school business works. Okay, specifically when we're looking at the way that we have to spend out the money and then the state reimburses. So to give you kind of a general idea, I did want to highlight specifically, what we were talking about with the federal funds that were in deficit. So the grand total was around 87,000, and these are the different funds that were used. This was part of the funds that we used to buy hotspots back in the day, and that was a 2-year grant from the state. So we had the tail end of that coming off, and then this would have been the Elementary Secondary School Act, which would have been supplemental money that we were able to do for staffing, and so you can see how that impacted. And so once again, that's really kind of a snapshot of a month of potential expenditures that we would have had that would have been in the negative, but probably was solved very quickly as of July the 15th when we were reimbursed. So fund balances. The part of the fund balance again, which is coming from our Form 9, is you can see that we have, these steady increases in our fund balances. Once again, a lot of this has to do with the projects that we've had. So we've been able to kind of show a false positive as far as the money that we have coming in, because we were having a lot of money come in due to our projects. So this is kind of, in general, we're talking about, especially 23 and 24, an infusion of about $10 million that would have normally not been part of our budget, that was added in there because of projects. So this kind of gives you just kind of a general breakdown of what those different funds are. So we're talking in 2023, we had a grand total of $15 million as of June 30th in the bank. Again, 9 million of that would have been in construction. And then you can see how the rest of it worked out. Again, you see these negative numbers for the federal grants. But we had ended up with June 30th with a cash balance in the education fund here. Also the debt service here. And curricular materials rental. This is a new little thing that's popped up, particularly because now we are responsible for that curricular materials rental out of our education fund. So that's going to be an additional component of this whole process, because we have to add that in as part of our education fund. Any questions on that?
Will we be talking in the summer about whether or not we're gonna charge a fee for the non-book items that we didn't charge for this year?
I think it's worth a discussion.
Yeah.
And part of it's going to be, we're going to probably have a fairly clear, a reasonably clear interpretation from the General Assembly about what that's going to look like.
A better.
We're hoping anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, may not happen.
I know it was not clear this year, and yeah.
It's the Wild West. On that caveat, I will say there are some corporations who did not spend their total $157 per student. I would really like to know how they're doing things, because I really have no idea how they're doing those things. But the state's going to help us out, so we have a website now that has all of the corporations in there, so we can compare and figure out why some corporations didn't spend as much and why some corporations spent a lot. Believe it or not, we were really not completely out of whack. We actually looked pretty darn good, all things considered. And but we did spend the appropriated dollars plus, and basically that where we were getting hit the most is for those high school dual credit classes, where there's materials that they're required to have in their college textbooks, and they cost a lot of money. And so now I think that in some of those situations where school corporations were under, they may not be offering dual credit. And that would be something that we would just have to dig into and figure out. That's the only thing I can figure out. I mean, as we're looking at pre-K, or actually K to 8, we're not spending the 158. We're below that, but the high school, we have kids that are $300 and $400 because of the dual credits that they're taking. So anyway, enough of that. There'll be more time to talk about all that. But anyway, just to kind of give you a general idea of what fun that will be. So this is the education fund balance. As I mentioned before, we ended June 30th with a cash balance of $676,000, and that would be 6.5% of that fund that we have left in reserve. I will note too that you have here, these are the years that we were borrowing from the rainy day fund in order to make our payroll. And this is the first year that we were not robbing the rainy day fund to do so. And then, so this was 1 year that we did not do a transfer to build up that cash balance. And so we've been able to keep that cash balance pretty strong. And I want to say the cash balance for the 31st of December was 900,000, is that right? So, we'll talk about that here in a minute. Yeah. Right, right. So a little bit of a misnomer there. So anyway, she'll go over that in a second with her. Also looking at cash balance, so left over in the operating fund. So we're looking at about 33% cash balance in the operating fund at the end of the year. And that's with a cash balance of 1.2 million. And this is kind of overall cash balance, including rainy day fund. So we're sitting at around 26%. This year, we're actually closer to 32%. This is basically the graph that's telling you exactly what I said. But this is just pretty straight ahead. Again, you have these years where we were borrowing to make to make up the difference in our education fund. And once again, 22, 23, that was not impacted. Just a kind of a general snapshot, looking at, what our deficit surplus is. And again, a lot of this can be a little misleading because of the building project, as far as the money that we have coming in. And we don't have very many years where we have revenue of $33 million. Wish we did. And then generally, this is what the state of Indiana is designating as our cash balance at 28.4%. This is basically just a revenue report. So again, this tells you in what areas revenue is coming in. So obviously, debt service revenue is popping up when we've had projects to start. But pretty much here in the blue, which is the state revenue, that's the money we get for student tuition support, has remained pretty consistent. I think this is the strangest graph on the planet. So I don't know what genius came up with it, but it's the one they give us. So it doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense to me. One thing that I would say from this that you can see is the local property tax revenue has continued to move up slightly, which is good. We did have the federal stimulus dollars that were added into our budget, which allowed us to have a little bit of a cushion as well. So once again, as we're looking at 24, you're going to see all of these starting to trend down because we're spending our project money and getting more down to a typical time, which would be more of this, more represented within this graph. And this is just kind of a general dollar figure that is represented in that graph, just to kind of let you know what dollars are assigned to those specific areas. And that, my friends, is it for the financial report. Are there any questions? And honestly, if you ever really want to know more about this, I would schedule a time where Brooke and I can just sit down and talk to you. There's a lot to this, and it's really hard to explain it in a 15-minute period. Okay. I think we're
All
good.
right, I think that concludes our Board of Finance meeting. So we conclude that. I would take a motion to reconvene our normal meeting.
I move to resume the regularly scheduled board meeting.
Second,
Second.
a motion and a second to reconvene. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are back in session. All right. Although nothing's changed, we're back in a different meeting.
There you go.
So the next part of our agenda is Tell Me Something Good. So this is an opportunity for us to share something encouraging or something we've seen within the school corporation, around the campuses, et cetera, that's encouraging and uplifting. So we'll take some time right now and see if anybody has anything to contribute to Tell Me Something Good.
I will start things out if that's okay. I got this really nice email on the 20th of December, the day before we were out for break. And it was actually from Sheridan. And so I just wanted to read this email because I thought it was super special. And It just screams Tipton. So I got this email, so good afternoon. I oversee the Sheridan Youth Basketball Program, and I wanted to reach out regarding the interactions between Tipton's varsity girls and some of our youth players. When you read that as a superintendent, you kind of go, "Oh, okay, but this is good." Okay, this past Wednesday, Sheridan varsity girls hosted Tipton. During the halftime of the game, our second and third grade girls played a game as a halftime show. While the little girls were playing, the Tipton players returned to the court prior to halftime ending and immediately started cheering on the girls. Some of the girls were even talking and supporting the players as they were sitting on the sidelines at that time. Not only did I receive several compliments from the Sheridan parents and fans by the support that came from Tipton players, but it really stood out to the girls as well. To quote a couple of the comments that I heard by our girls. Did you see those big girls cheering for us? They got excited, and they aren't even from Sheridan. And then the last one, I even heard one of the Tipton players say, "Look, it's the future of high school girls basketball." I love this. So the Tipton girls didn't owe anything to these little girls, especially since they were from the opposite school. However, the way they treated and cheered on the little girls spoke highly to their character. Their positive attitude and support made a huge impact in such a short time for these young girls. Please let them know and that we are thankful that they were here and what they did. I thought that was super nice. And, our girls team has had a challenging season, but again, it kind of screams about the character of our girls and how they're trying to support girls athletics. And I just simply loved this email and wanted to make sure that I could share it with all of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Anyone else? And one thing I would say, I know Mrs. Crawford isn't here, but if you've had a chance to be on the roads in the last week, I don't know who drives bus 43, but they do a fantastic job in my neck of the woods of stopping and making sure the kids are safe, and big wide turns, and just it's been amazing to see. It's hard enough to do that, I think, on clear roads, and then to get it super cold and snowy. So I just wanted to say just a moment of appreciation for all the drivers, and for Mrs. Crawford, who kind of keeps that whole thing moving in the right direction. So that's a tall tale. Tough job. So, all right. Anybody else? Okay. We'll go to comments from the community. I think we had one. Did you? That was for the first?
Yep.
Okay.
I think we're all good.
We are all good. Then we will move to our consent agenda. So I'll be looking for a motion to approve our consent agenda. Within that consent agenda is the approval of our minutes from our work session in the 10th of December and our regular session minutes, the 12th of December meeting. Approval of claims. Those are payroll claims from December 13th, 20th, and January 3rd. And we have accounts payable claims for January 2025. The personnel report, which I will read in a moment. We had no approvals of field trips, and then there was a donation spreadsheet that was available for our review. I would take a motion to. Oh wait, I'll read the personnel report before we. All right.
Usually
Do it after. Okay, so I'd take a motion to approve the consent agenda that was included in your packet.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda is approved. The personnel report for January 13th, that we had no certified staff resignations or recommendations. In our classified staff, from a resignation perspective, we had Ashley Trageser, first shift custodian in the elementary school. We had Lily Heaton, special education paraeducator in the elementary school, and Gretchen Jones, which was a third shift custodian in the elementary school. From a transfer perspective, we had Brandy Hart transferring from second shift custodian to first shift custodian in the elementary school. On the ECA staff, from resignations, we had Adam Trageser as boys varsity head soccer coach. In the high school, Dave Maddox as the varsity assistant soccer coach in the high school, and Sam Phillips as the girls head track coach in the middle school. From our recommendations, we had Jeff Stout as the assistant football coach, Tipton Middle School, Matt Higginbotham for assistant football coach, Tipton Middle School, Beth Unger for sixth grade head cheer coach, and Jessica McKinney, sixth grade head cheer coach. Those are split positions. And then from a volunteer perspective, Meg Bradley for the high school band program. So that is our personnel report for January. All right, next item on the agenda is we're back to the superintendent's report. So
Yeah, I just keep showing up.
you're right
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Really, this is going to be a fairly brief superintendent's report. So, in really recognizing the time and all this crazy meeting stuff going on, I did want to inform the board that it's one of my duties to appoint an individual to the Tipton County Public Library Board. This is a 4-year term that'll begin in February of 2025. I did make the recommendation to the library board of Brett Stoker on this appointment. And I would be remiss if I did not say something about Cindy Day, who has been on this board for 16 years. And she will be coming in February for us to give her Blue Future Award. So I will say that she was like tremendous with this transition. She gave me 3 names of people that she thought would be great. And so Brett was on the top. So I asked him first and he said yes. So anyway, that's kind of how that process works. It is January and it's Board Appreciation Month. So I do have certificates for all of you as a small token of our appreciation for the hard work that goes into being a school board member. I know you thought that this paid millions of dollars and it was a glamorous position, and I would love to say that was true, but it is a very valuable position, and I do appreciate all of your hard work, and I do appreciate the time commitment that it takes to be a board member. It is a crazy amount of time, and I do appreciate the fact that you guys are always willing to do what it takes to be a good board. So thank you for that, and we will have those certificates here before you leave. We are in the middle of a State Board of Accounts audit, so if you hear screaming from this part of town, you might just say a prayer. Anyway, so they're auditing the 22, 23, 23, 24 school year books, and so you know, you never know what an audit's going to be like. We've been very lucky with audits, so we just kind of answer their questions, give them what they need, and move on. So that's kind of the goal. I'm not sure how long they will be here. The last time they were here forever, but they came at Thanksgiving and stayed through Christmas break. So we're hoping that maybe this time of year might not be as long, but again, we'll do whatever we need to do. So hopefully nobody's listening to this who's from the State Board of Accounts. But anyway, it's all part of the process. And then at the end, they will give us a report. We will share that report with the board as always. And they always have some little suggestions that we can make in order to make our process a little bit better. So we'll share those out. Power School, I did share out last week about Power School. We continue to find a little bit more about Power School. We are hoping to have more information on Wednesday that we will begin to share out with families. So once again, this is a situation where we do all of the cloud-based storage with Power School. This was not any kind of a hack on Tipton Community Schools. It was most definitely a hack of Power School. So once again, there's information that's coming out. You might hear in the news media X, Y, and Z. We want to be able to present our people with facts, not this might be what happened. We want to be able to share with them really what we're 90% sure of why this happened. So just stay tuned on that. I will keep you posted. And like I said, on Wednesday, we're supposed to have a lot more information regarding that breach and how it might have impacted our students and staff. Upcoming agenda items. Next month, we will do, I'll ask permission to advertise for trimming and spraying. And then we will have those bids probably in March, go through that process. And so we also will have computer leases coming up. We've had some preliminary conversations about leases. We will get you all involved with that as time moves on. And then property liability, cybersecurity, workers' comp insurance, that all comes due in April. And we are soliciting some bids from a different vendor. And so we will have some comparisons to show you guys as a board and help us decide which company we think would best represent our needs and moving forward. So that will be coming out here in the next couple of months. That's all I've got. Anybody want to hear anything more? All right, that's good.
All right.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you for that. We've done the Blue Future Awards. They are back home, warm in their homes now. But it is Mr. Jaworski again, the spotlight on schools for the curricular material adoption.
Where's the cute picture?
You know, that's a real good question. Every time I turn off my computer, turn back on, it resets my background. I've yet to talk to IT about that. So,
No kidding.
as it is, we'll settle for this. It's okay this time.
Christmas family photo.
I know, we were looking forward to that.
I know. All right. I'll try to be as to the point with this as I can. Again, this is a fairly comprehensive process, so I do want to give it its due time here. So we had our elementary reading curriculum adoption. We completed this a little bit earlier than we have adoptions in the past. It's something we wanted to kind of start being more mindful of. Some of the feedback we've gotten from staff during these resource adoptions is, we'll adopt sometime in late spring, April, May, and then, we order the textbooks and they don't get in until like late July, like the week before school starts. And teachers haven't had a lot of time actually working with the content. So this time around, we decided we want to get the adoption process completed through first semester. So that way we can get that ordering process done sooner. We're actually planning to, pending approval, get teacher copies of these textbooks in our teachers' hands by next month for our PD day to give our teachers some professional development on, start planning with these materials for the following school year. Again, giving our teachers some time to start working on that. So again, the purpose of this committee was to provide the school board recommendation for reading curriculum that meets the academic needs for students, teachers, and families. The process we follow. So a little bit more unique these days with the state now, quote unquote, footing the bill for curriculum materials. I say that in quotes because they're not really fitting all of it. But for the parts that they are footing, they want to make sure they have a little more say on what it is that we're purchasing. So they gave us a list of 5 vendors that were aligned to the science of reading. That is a big push from the state, is that all curriculum materials related to reading be aligned to the science of reading, a more systematic process for reading instruction. So with that, we were given our 5 as opposed to 500 vendors we could choose from. And then we assembled a team of stakeholders, parents, teachers, admin, again, people would have a vested interest in these resources, established our priorities and developed an evaluation rubric, listened to the resource presentations from each vendor. We had a debrief following each of those presentations, and then a follow-up meeting to discuss which one we felt was most efficient, and we came to a conclusion on that best resource. All that to say, this is my fun graphic for today's PowerPoint. This is your curriculum vendors. There were, like I said, 5 of them. Amplify CKLA, Wit and Wisdom, Savvis' My View, and then McGraw-Hill cheated. They had 2 different resources, Open Court and Wonder. So the odds were stacked in their favor there. I could go into pretty close detail on each of these. For the sake of time, I'm not going to take up the rest of the evening talking about each one of these in detail. If you would like to learn more about what the committee felt about all the second place and less finishers, you can ask me later. But The ultimate winner in this race was Open Court. Put this out of order. Let me give these people their due. These are the stakeholders who actually put in the time, multiple days over several months, hours, changing schedules. These people are, in my opinion, heroes because they helped me formulate this recommendation for you guys. Again, I'm going to take the time to read these. Jenna Smith from kindergarten, Carrie Cloud representing first grade, Stacy Angel representing second grade, Monica Rich from third grade, Jen Martin from fourth grade, Danelle Grubb from fifth grade. We had Nicole Oliver represent our special education group. Mr. Johnson was a part of this cohort. Jennifer Hummerkraus, our school board member, was a part of this as well. Michelle Sharma was a parent. Mariah Hooper, parent. Denise Rivera, a parent. And then Jessica Higginbotham serving as the reading specialist, and Sarah Pierce as our Title I teacher. That was a large group trying to coordinate schedules with so many people. Not always easy, but was definitely much appreciated. And like I said, this is all slightly out of order. My apologies. The priorities that I mentioned earlier, these were the things that we actually have a rubric established based off these priorities, right? We discussed around the round table what are the things that we felt are most important: engaging writing activities, high quality developmentally appropriate assessments, supports for the special learners, both ML and special ed. Supports for families was huge. Professional development opportunities was big on my end. Same with technical compatibility. It's got to be able to work on iPads. That's what our kids are using. Lesson guidance, engaging stories, and then multiple modes of learning. That's on top of the DOE already had a very large rubric that they vetted to get down to just 5 vendors. So, like I said, putting the cart before the horse on this one, Open Court is our recommendation, all right? And like I said, I can go into great detail here. I will spare you the minute details and leave you with these big headlines. With Open Court, the consensus choice of parents, teachers, and admin, it was nearly unanimous, except for one, fifth grade. But again, they felt very confident that this was a fine choice as well. So again, very confident in this resource that we're recommending for the board. Again, has engaging stories. It's aligned to our instructional practices. Again, we have elements of an effective lesson that we've developed and been using over the last handful of years. This resource we felt aligned best with that. Superior supports for special learner populations. Again, we just talked a little bit about our growing ML population, are about 15% special ed population. Those are not insignificant numbers. And again, they are growing. And that's something that they also, those two areas tend to be where we struggle the most on iLearn. And we were really cognizant of that when we're looking at resources and trying to find how are we going to better support those learners. And so this checked the boxes there. It offers project-based learning, which we know is excellent for, especially for young learners. And then finally, a variety of professional learning opportunities, both in-person, live, virtual, asynchronous, the whole shebang. So again, we're really confident this was the best choice moving forward. Just a handful of the testimonials you can read there for yourself from parents. Again, there's more support for families and special learners. That was big from our parent cohort. Second grade talked about the ties in well with our current phonics resource, UFly. Again, UFly is a quote unquote free resource. You do have to pay for the paper when you print it off, but ultimately UFly is our phonics resource that we use to help make sure we build up those foundations for students. Third grade talked about the high interest literature. That was really important for them. Again, text, evidence, citations, that's something that can easily get skipped over, especially in those early grades. It's critical in the older grades. So we want to work on finding a resource to help establish that early. And then fourth grade talked about strong assessments and data collection. That speaks to my heart. I love data. I love making sure that we make sure we know what's working and why it's working, and we can apply that to see how we're going to get better. Ultimately, there was also a third-party independent review. Again, it's not just a bunch of stakeholders getting together in a room trying to talk ourselves into one of 5 options. A third-party review from the Reading League stated that Open Court meets criteria for grades K through 5. They're very supportive of it. There are drawbacks, but just like with any resource, there are going to be some drawbacks, concerns about a lack of practice for word-level fluency. Reading and writing activities may be disconnected from the text, and then limited language comprehension assessments. These are all things that we're aware of with this recommendation, and we still feel it is a strong resource enough to move forward. Lastly, everybody's favorite slide, the cost. What's this going to hit us with? It's a 6-year comprehensive, $207,363, and then some pocket change there. That's what comes out to roughly $6 per student per year. All things considered, yeah, sticker shock for sure. Nobody wants to pay that amount, but at the same time, I would say this kind of falls into the median cost for reading curriculum, to be honest. We could have gotten something a little bit cheaper, but you tend to get what you pay for. We could have gotten something a little more expensive. We actually piloted the most expensive one, which was Amplify, as an elementary teacher in each grade level the previous year, piloted it, and it was fairly unanimously, I would say consensus wise, very much not liked by the teachers who piloted. And those are teachers who really wanted to believe in that too, and they had trouble buying in on that. So again, ultimately, we chose not to go with the most expensive route. We ended up settling with Open Core here for that 207. It is reimbursable by the DOE for as much as we can get. We did want to break it up though, and that's something I think is really important. We kind of negotiate a little bit of deferred payment for this, so this isn't hitting us all at once. We can make sure that we can afford that along with all the other different curriculum materials we have to purchase year over year. So we'll be paying about half of that the first year, then 25% each of the next 2 years after that. And again, we can utilize, we confirm this, we can utilize some Title I funding for this, which we do plan to use to kind of help offset some of that cost as well. That is it for the reading curriculum adoption presentation. So that will be something for you guys to vote on. Do you have any questions before I kind of turn back over to you guys?
Yeah. Did you have anyone from IT involved in this?
No, not directly, although I've been in communication with Stephen Gingrich, our technology director. We've done several of these adoptions, and so I'm pretty familiar with exactly what needs to be incorporated. I did share each of these vendors with him. McGraw-Hill, we actually have in the high school and the middle school. It's already pulls data from PowerSchool to automatically update student rosters, class rosters. So from a technology standpoint, that's clear. Yeah, it works.
And then what about upgrades, fixes, patches?
Oh yeah, no, all that's included. Yeah,
All that's included?
100%. Yeah. Yeah, we talk about that. We talk about that whenever we did science adoption too. Because that's something that happens, right? Like science evolves over time, right? And I know it's only like a 6-year contract, but our science teachers have talked about that before, wanting to have, you get the print resource, but then the digital resource is also critical because those things can update if things need to be adjusted. So yes, that is included in the digital component of this package.
And we currently don't have anything.
Currently, our elementary has been using McGraw-Hill's other resource, Wonders. Yeah, that was that. We did listen to a presentation from them. It's not currently well received with our elementary. It is utilized, but they were looking for something better than what it has been. And when we listened to the Wonders presentation this year, our teachers noted that hadn't much had changed. It was very, very similar to what it was in the past. They tried to sell it up as like a big new brand. It was basically a new paint job on the cover. That's mostly what we determined. So.
I will say that the reading adoption is always, for the corporation, the most expensive adoption. And I was pleasantly surprised when I found out it was $60 per student, because when I was an elementary principal, it was about 45 per student. So it's kind of stayed, I mean, with inflation and everything, it's kind of stayed where it's been. But it's, again, the number seems really big when you're looking at it holistically, but, pared down to per student, it's about in line with what we would assume it would be.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jaworski. Next, we'll move on to the department reports that were included in your packet. We had Mr. Jaworski's report, the technology report, and the food service report. I'm trusting you had a chance to review those in advance. Are there any questions in those reports from the board? All right, I'll take that as no. All right, then we are on to February's Blue Future Award winner in advance, Brooke Cleaver, who gave us the financial report. So
Totally unexpected.
Eric's nominated you.
Yeah, a very public nomination.
Thank you. Okay, for December, we finished the year in the education fund, $1,104,206.05. As we briefly mentioned earlier, though, $346,824.51
was the transfer from the curricular material fund. So once you back that out, we would have ended in education with $757,381.54. But we were required to transfer that curriculum material by the end of the year, so we got that moved over. On December 17th, we received $213,226.87 for our curricular material distribution from the state, so that was part of that $346,000. Debt service, we finished the month with $771,595.47. In the operations fund, $1,512,445.40, and rainy day stayed at $2,003,833.41. On December 30th, we deposited our property tax and license excise distributions from the county, totaling $3,299,755.58. Just over roughly 1.6 and a half went into debt service and operations. I had touched base with them because I noticed the Form 22 was off. It did not include the financial institution tax or the commercial vehicle tax, and we have since received those in the mail. So we have those deposited. And we received those on the 7th, by the way. And then we issued debt service payments in December totaling $1,650,850. And then I confirmed that the trustee U.S. Bank received those by wire. Any questions on the report?
Is there any money owed back to the rainy day fund presently? There is, right? Or not?
Right, we would have to crunch numbers to figure out.
I'm not asking for
on the
amount,
in-
but
on
there
the
is, right?
Inferno.
Because in your chart, it was 3 million, but it's somewhere between.
It's around 200,000, probably, just off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah, somewhere
We can look at that.
because we didn't, basically, we had the appropriation, but I think we're up to 300,000, but we didn't take all of that out. So, and I couldn't give you an exact number on that, but we can.
I just was wondering if there were. I thought there were.
Yeah.
Thank you. We have no old business, new business on the agenda. We have the approval of the early literacy achievement grant. The Board of School Trustees must approve a resolution and a distribution list of teachers and staff eligible for the early literacy achievement grant. A resolution and distribution list is included in the packet that we received. It is recommended that the distribution list and the resolution be approved as written. I'd be looking for a motion and a second to approve the early literacy achievement grant.
I move to approve the early literacy achievement grant.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments on that? Okay. All those in favor of approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Early literacy achievement grant is approved. All right, as of January 1st, 2025, the federal mileage rate reimbursement increased 3 cents to 70 cents a mile. This is the rate that TCSC employees can use to reimburse travel related to professional development meetings not held on our campus. The recommendation before us is to increase the mileage reimbursement to the 2025 federal rate of 70 cents per mile. We need a motion and a second to approve the mileage rate reimbursement up to 70 cents.
I move to approve the mileage rate reimbursement for 2025 to 70 cents a mile.
Second.
Perfect. We have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? All right. All those in favor of approving the mileage rate reimbursement for 2025 of 70 cents, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Indiana Code 35-44-1-4 requires the school board of trustees annually to sign, approve, and submit the uniform conflict of interest disclosure statement. It's recommended that the board of school trustees approve the uniform conflict of interest disclosure statements completed by Tammy Brown, Andrea Campbell, Rob Cochran, Jennifer Hummerkaus, Kim Fagan, and Beth Wolford and Eric Underwood. I need a motion and a second to approve the conflict of interest disclosures?
I move to approve the conflict of interest disclosures.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the conflict of interest disclosures. Any questions or comments on that? All right, all those in favor of approval of the conflict of interest disclosure, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Earlier, Mr. Jaworski provided a detailed account of the process for the review and selection of the elementary reading curricular materials. The cost of the materials was discussed. It's attached in our agenda packet. It is recommended that the elementary reading curriculum adoption materials be approved as presented. So I'll be looking for a motion and a second to approve and the adoption of the reading curricular materials beginning fall semester 2025.
I move to adopt the $207,363.57 for the reading material.
Perfect. I have a motion. Any second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or further comments or questions on this? All right. All those in favor of approval of the adoption of the reading curricular materials for the fall semester of 2025, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. We have no other published matters to come before the board. I think advisory committees, we got a heads up that those will begin in February. Schedule of events coming up, January 20th, we're going to have Martin Luther King Jr. Day. School will not be in session. February 10th, we have our Professional Development Day. Students do not attend, but I would say if you are one of the newer board members, this is a great way to spend a half a day at the school and see what really happens on these things. I've taken advantage of that twice, I think. Mr.
We're allowed to
Jaworski.
just show up to that.
Yeah, and they'll send you stuff, but it's, yeah. Really amazing to see the PLCs in action, and so you understand what they're talking about when they say PLC. That's the only reason I went. But so I would encourage you to do that. That'll be on February 10th. February 11th is our next school board meeting. February 14th is a flex day, which would be a snow makeup day. And February 17th would be a President's Day, flex day, school makeup day. So I'd be looking for a motion and a second to adjourn.
I move to adjourn the January meeting.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.